I'm so excited to be talking to you guys all today. Sorry it took me a little bit longer. I feel like I should start this out with the injury update. Um, but since this is my channel, I feel like I should be honest of where I'm coming from. And I started my show a little bit later than I normally would. And that's because post game, and this is going to turn some people off of my channel, but I think that that's okay because I want to have one, even if you disagree with me, you're more than welcome to be a part of my audience. I love open discussion, but I also am strongly opinionated and I'm proud of myself for being educated and feeling strongly in my convictions. So I'm actually going to start this out with in the post after the game, Brock Purdy was talking with George Kittle, and they were celebrating a phenomenal win that ended up going down to the wire. At first, the 49ers were up by 17 going into the fourth quarter. They cut it pretty close and they ran away with it, which was very exciting. And we will get into that. Um, but while Brock Purdy and George Kittle were being interviewed, Nick Bosa came over wearing a Make America Great Again hat and pointed to it and stole the attention away from Brock Purdy and George Kittle, who, like I said, just had really phenomenal. They both just had really phenomenal games. It's National Tight Ends Day, so no surprise that George Kittle shined, and also he famously wore that F Dallas shirt last year that he got fined for paying homage to those before him who have also worn F Dallas shirts and supporting that really historic rivalry between the 49ers and the Cowboys. And the reporter was calling attention to that and calling attention to the fact that the 49ers are now 4-4, which isn't great, but they're right behind the Cardinals in the division. They're ahead of the Seahawks now, who ended up losing to the Bills today. And so they're, in contention to win the NFC West. They just beat an NFC opponent in the Cowboys. They have a lot of hard games coming up, but they have a bye week to rest and recover. Christian McCaffrey is supposed to come back. And once again, we'll get into all of that in 1 second. But Nick Bosa interrupted that to make his, MAGA statement. And not only do I feel really strongly against voting for someone who is a convicted felon of, sexual crimes and also crimes against this country, trying to uh, instigate a turnover during the election and still to this day denouncing that election was real. But then in his press conference, I think it was Eric Branch asked Nick Bosa, he was asked a ton of football questions. And finally, Eric Branch asked him, like, why did you feel like it was necessary to do that? And I've always been conflicted on this because I think that athletes, I mean, I have a podcast and who am I? I think athletes should be, it's totally fair for you to say your beliefs and go out on a platform and talk and build up your own audience and make your own money. The NFL is making money off of all these players. They should make money for themselves as well. And I'm usually in support of that. But the 49ers, who are a team I've been a fan of, I grew up a fan of. I have a baby blanket that's a 49er blanket. My dad was a fan, and this was passed on from generation to generation. My dad's grandfather is the reason my dad was a fan. My they lived in Daly City when my dad was a kid, and he would go visit his grandfather. And that's that he so it's his my great grandfather was the original 49ers fan, and that's been passed down. So I've kept up with the 49ers for a long time. And obviously a part of that history is Colin Kaepernick. And Colin Kaepernick was massively scrutinized by the media for talking about his political ideologies. And maybe that's okay. Like maybe the place to do these things isn't a football locker room. I'm not necessarily saying that's wrong, but I'm saying Colin Kaepernick was standing up for violence against all people from police, but specifically Black people who are targeted way more often than other people from police. And he wanted to call attention to this. And he got blacklisted from the NFL because of this. He's never came back to the NFL. He's tried multiple times. And maybe part of that has to do with talent. I've heard he wasn't very friendly. He had a diva attitude. I'm not saying that's the only reason, but what I do want to call attention to is there was so much scrutiny that Colin Kaepernick faced from a ton of 49er fans that when I was growing up, what Colin Kaepernick was doing wasn't widely supported. It was hugely criticized. People were very angry that he was taking attention away from the actual sport of football. It was said in the locker room, some people agreed with him, some didn't, and it made his teammates uncomfortable that he made it such a big deal and that they really took the focus off of what football is supposed to be, which is a place where politics don't matter. You could be voting blue, you could be voting red, but if you both, root for the same team on Sundays, you guys are going to get along and you're going to root for your team and you're going to want them to win, and you're going to see that humans are much more than their ballots. And like I said, Colin Kaepernick, not only by fans, got hugely scrutinized, but by reporters. Reporters attacked him mercilessly, especially as his play fell off. Now, I will say maybe if they would have kept winning, he could have done these things and it not been such a big deal. But I felt like it was important for me to point out that I think, Nick Bosa, who's a white man, was able to talk about politics just now and did not receive criticism. And Colin Kaepernick, although did it, multiple games, was, told that soldiers weren't, that he was disrespecting soldiers, that he was disrespecting football, that he was making it about himself, that he was turning, what's supposed to be a sport that brings people together, he was turning people against each other. And I just know that so many columns were written about him, so many articles, and NFL Network, ESPN attacking him left and right. And some of that was for his play, but a lot of it was for what he was doing outside of football, but bringing it to the football landscape and using his stardom as a way to spread that message about police brutality against Black people. And it was pissing me off that Nick Bosa stole that moment from George Kittle and Brock Purdy to make it about himself and who he's voting for. And then not only did he go to a press conference and had multiple questions where no one even addressed it, but then once someone addressed it, he didn't get any extra pushback. And I just think that that's a little bit unfair and is a little bit disappointing because I'm obviously a huge 49ers fan. As I said, my dad passed it down to me, who got it from his grandpa. So it's been passed down from generation to generation. And I'm not sitting here, telling you guys who you should vote for or anything, but obviously I'm a, woman. So these things, the next election will have effects on me, and Trump's presidency in the past did have effects on me and, my body and my right to choose. Luckily, I live in California, but anyways, we'll get to football. I just wanted to explain because I was a little bit late coming on here. And I know that this, I tweeted about it and some people said unfollowed. And I know, so I'll probably lose some followers now. And once again, if you are voting that way, I'm not saying you're not welcome here. I'm not trying to make you feel uncomfortable. I'm just pointing out that there is a difference in the way that people talked about Colin Kaepernick and now how they just allowed Nick Bosa to, also make a political statement but without as much pushback. Anyways, I want to get on to football. I just wanted to kind of get that off my chest because I didn't feel like I could talk about it. Was on my mind and it's hard. I don't want to come in here and be fake with you guys. So let's get into the game because that's what's most important. I just wanted to talk about that. Thank you guys so much. I'm not reading the comments right now. I'm really hoping that people are being respectful in the comments. Like I said, even if you disagree, if you want to unfollow because you don't, feel safe, that's fine. But you don't have to. I'm not telling you you're, a bad person. I just couldn't, I wanted to point out that there was, no matter what you believe or how you're voting, you have to say that there's a difference in how those two players were just talked about. And maybe it'll be talked about different. But let's get into the game. Thank you guys so much for letting me get that off my chest. So sorry. Okay. So 49ers, Cowboys. What a roller coaster that was.